up, guys, and welcome back to Lost Bits, the series where we explore the unused, altered, and unseen content in gaming. As I make this video, Mario Party Superstars is just on the horizon, and to say I'm hyped for it would be quite the understatement. So, as an outlet for my hype, in this video we'll be diving into Mario Party 5. You know, the one that sealed DK away as an NPC for the next 5 games and replaced items with capsules. Boy, do I sure love that change. Now, Mario Party 5 may not be my favorite in the series, but it's definitely still in my top 4 Mario Party games for the Gamecube. And with all of that said, let's go throw some capsules around. It's time to find some lost bits. Alrighty, so kicking things off, just like we saw back in the Mario Party 4 video, Mario Party 5 also has some leftover E3 content that can still be accessed. Firstly is this alternate title screen sequence that was seen at E3 2003. Here we can not only see what appears to be an early version of the game's logo, but also a fully animated bit where all of the game's characters run around as the star spirits kind of just float around in the background. Although I certainly think the game's logo got a much cleaner overhaul in the final, it's strange that the final title screen itself is almost a step backwards, with it just being a bunch of 2D images barely moving around. Although admittedly still pretty basic itself, I gotta say, I wish this one was just touched up a bit and used in the final instead. Thankfully, however, it looks like the characters running around here went on to be silhouettes reused in the file select screen. And although this title screen is intact, the buttons here don't actually work the way they were intended to. Selecting Demo will just take you back to the start of this same E3 title screen, and even less exciting, selecting Minigame will just crash the game. That said though, the intended menu the selection is supposed to take you to is still thankfully left in the game too. This E3 menu, which looks pretty similar to the one from Mario Party 4, will appear. And just like how DK and Wario weren't selectable in Mario Party 4, here both Boo and Koopa Kid only appear as a silhouette and can't be selected, likely as they weren't fully ready yet for this E3 demo. Once again, just like with Mario Party 4, E3 attendees could toggle controller rumble on this menu, and hey, it looks like they even found the spell check button this time. One rather big change with Mario Party 5's E3 showing is that unlike with 4, where you could choose to play a sample of the board game mode, Mario Party 5's E3 demo only lets the player play a selection of minigames. Although resulting in a much more contained demo, the minigame selection isn't too shabby, as we got Nightlight Fright, Leaf Leap, Pushy Penguins, Coney Island, Rumble Fumble, Chomp Romp, Ground Pound Down, and Popstar Piranhas. Not bad at all. Now personally, I'm definitely not the biggest fan of capsules in Mario Party games, but I was surprised to learn that there are actually unused text references to 2 capsules that, I guess, never got to see the light of day. First up is the Donkey Kong capsule with the description, doesn't appear as a capsule and is only active in the opening and space events. Then there's a Versus capsule with a description, doesn't appear as a capsule and is only active in the story mode and space events. Both of these capsule descriptions are quite odd in the fact that they explicitly say they don't appear as a capsule. I guess this text is just associated with how the DK and Versus spaces work, but then why even have these capsule descriptions in the first place? Perhaps at one point they were intended to be capsules, but then the change was made and then this text was also changed. Then similarly, although the Bowser capsule is seen in the game, there's some capsule description text for it that doesn't ever get seen, since the orb is used automatically when obtained, so you can't view it in your inventory. Despite this, the capsule has the following unused description: increases Bowser spaces and is active as soon as it appears. Next up, back again for the 5th Mario Party, is once again a normally unused message that's meant to be seen if the player has too many stars to handle. If a player has 999 stars, they will be told that, unfortunately, they just won't be able to get any more. Just like in the other games, I know some of you like to say that in theory this might be obtainable, but let's be real, it's basically impossible to ever see this amount of stars without cheats. Alright, next, let's move on to talk about some unused graphics, which thankfully, just like every Mario Party game I've covered so far, this game has a decent amount of. First, we got 3 models that go unused in Mario Party 5. An early capsule model of a coin block, a dapper host toad, seemingly a leftover from Mario Party 4, and finally an early model of Boo, who is just begging to have his cheeks pinched. Then, moving on to the two-dimensional side of things, first are a pair of unused placeholder graphics, each sporting a Japanese character, with them translating to front and back respectively. There's a dummy graphic with the word dummy literally just written on it, gotta love the self-awareness. And just the same, there's also a test graphic, which lets you know exactly what it is. This one, though, is apparently specifically called when starting a game of Card Party in the bonus mode menu. Based on this and its aspect ratio, this graphic could have been used as a test for the cards or something. Next up is an image of the early version of the game's logo as we saw back in the E3 title, and this one appears to have some sort of funky filter applied to it as well. The next isn't an unused graphic, but rather one that's normally never seen, as it's found hidden just outside of the player's view in the minigame explanation screens. This is a transliteration of the Japanese word toe, which apparently translates to projection. There's really only one form of projecting going on here, and that's the preview of the minigame about to be played, so maybe this was a placeholder for that at some point. And lastly, for the unused graphics are several left over for various menu options. We got this one that translates to battle, bonus on, level, one for a 4-player minigame, one with a crowned 3, and lastly, this guy, which according to Google Translate, appears to be a placeholder texture for the video files used for the minigame explanation screen previews. Pretty cool. Moving on, there's not much for unused audio in this game, but a lone error sound. This sound likely never had any purpose other than just filling in the gaps for any tracks that weren't used. Next, just like with every main series Mario Party game I've covered so far, Mario Party 5 comes in clutch with a whole bunch of debugging features left over in the game. Firstly, this debug menu returns from Mario Party 4, and once again, it works just about the same as every Mario Party before it. Here you can select almost all of the minigames in Mario Party 5, select which characters you want in, and bam, you're in the action in only a few seconds. It's a really quick and nifty way to load up a minigame, but you just have to try and decipher which minigame is which, as they're mostly titled something different on this list than the name seen in the final release, sometimes still using some Japanese words. And in addition to just the minigames, this menu also has an option to take you back to the game's file select screen, credit roll, as well as I think the most important entry here, a message test screen. Here you can of course browse the game's text box messages to your heart's content, so if you're into text, then this is the debug menu for you. There are of course some more debugging features left in the game, like being able to pull up a usage meter, an overscan border boundary, basically specifying where user interface graphics should be placed within in order to be visible on most TVs back in the day, a feature for the story mode intro scenes, which lets you, the user, browse through the different story mode intros, and pressing A on a selection will then quickly start a game where you can see that intro. And then in addition to the other unused capsule stuff I mentioned earlier, there are some more debug capsules that can be accessed too. All 3 of these otherwise unused capsules default to the name Error, and each results in a different debug feature. Well, except for Capsule 2A, which doesn't really seem to do anything. Anyways, Capsule 28 will activate a debug camera feature. As you would expect, this lets the user basically move the camera anywhere they want, and if they want to, they can try and find secrets and new discoveries in the boards. And you got all of the camera controls too. You can move around, rotate, and zoom in and out to your heart's content. You can also toggle on or off a model of a super mushroom, which I guess is used to determine where the center is. It's kind of cool. Although kind of redundant if you're totally legally emulating this game on Dolphin, it's certainly a nice feature if you're playing on original hardware for sure. Then the other unused debug capsule, Capsule 29, enables the player to place all 4 players wherever they want on the board. This was likely used to set up various game outcomes and events quickly, rather than hoping for good luck that a certain player would land on a desired space or something. Honestly, a really cool debugging feature, one I'm surprised we haven't seen up until this game. And now, saving the best debug menu for last, we got yet another character animation test area. The one we saw back in Mario Party 4 was quite disappointing after the awesome ones in 2 and 3, so it's really exciting to see a proper animation test mode here. This one even has controls for it labeled on the top of this box thing, and hell yeah, that's awesome. Anyways, much like the animation test areas in Mario Parties 2 and 3, here you can cycle through all of the different characters in the game, test all of their different animations, and of course, move around the camera. You can also cycle through 4 different levels of detail for each model, with each increment reducing the poly count. Notably, the lowest level of detail models lose stuff like eyelids, fingers, and even mouths. Just like the others, this one is super fun to just shut off your mind in and play around with the different animations for a while. It's really relaxing. It's also like a virtual gold mine for making memes. Like, here you go, instant meme potential right there. Beautiful. Next, speaking of camera movement, I showed you guys the off-screen graphic in the minigame explanation screen, but there are a few more oddities that can be seen when moving around the camera. Firstly, in the minigame bus buffer, you can take the camera down and see a reflected model of the bus. Now this is a trick seen in numerous games to give the illusion of reflection, that's nothing new, but those usually flip around the same model, whereas here, the reflected model appears quite different with the windows being changed or blacked out. It's thought that perhaps this underground model was a version of the bus that was developed earlier in the game's development. Next up is something I noticed on the character selection screen. When playing, at first I thought I had some characters that I didn't unlock or something, but it turned out that the camera was just slightly moved, causing a few to not be visible. Then I started to wonder why it was just those that disappeared and not all of the rest. Well, by taking the camera back, we can see that, for whatever reason, Wario, Toad, Boo, and Koopa Kid aren't in line with the rest of the characters, but are rather staggered further back and all behind this blue background layer thing. My only guess is maybe these characters were implemented after the others and the developers just placed them further back. Whatever the case may be, it's pretty strange. And now, last up for this video, Mario Party 5 actually has a test map left over. Now unfortunately, this one doesn't have nearly as many things to mess around with like the one we saw in Mario Party 1, but here we get loaded into what almost looks like some sort of golf course with a water feature in the center here, a lone tree, as well as a very large moon. This map looks to have much more of a realistic look to it, which greatly contrasts the more cartoony look the rest of the game has. And I could be wrong, but I don't remember an area like this being used anywhere in the game at all. Anyways, as you've been seeing, this map splits the screen up into 4 vertical chunks, each with its own camera perspective, which you can move around here all you want. Based on the vertical splits of this map, I assume this might have been used as a camera test for minigames like Ground Pound Down, as well as to maybe test how the water affects visibility. Not the most interactive test map we've seen on the series by any means, but still, pretty cool to see this area that honestly looks like a scrapped hole from Wii Sports or something. Anyways, that wraps up this video for Mario Party 5, and I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't yet, check out my other Mario Party videos, and as always, thank you all so much for tuning in today, and I will see you in a bit.